Hello, my name is Tashina Gonzalez, and I'm super excited to share this information with you. It came to me actually via my day job as an automotive professional with General Motors. I'm currently a silver leader with Young Living, and it was presented to me in the context of coaching and mentoring, in particular women, as it was mentioned that in the workplace in general, a man will apply for a job if he believes he is 60% capable of that job, whereas a woman will wait until she has 100% of those qualifications. And so this was presented, the 4 stages of competence, as a way to help mentor women to get through some of the places they can be stuck. So it's called the 4 stages of competence, and I subtitled it How to Avoid the Pitfalls of the Emotions of Working Through the Stages of Learning. So it's also known as the 4 stages of learning. So what are those? So the 4 stages are unconscious incompetence, which is wrong intuition, conscious incompetence, which is wrong analysis, conscious competence, which is the right analysis, and unconscious competence, which is right intuition. So again, those 4 stages are stage 1, and this can apply to any type of learning. So learning a guitar, wanting to apply to a new job. But as I get towards the end of the presentation, and as I sat there, I will show how I feel it applies when we are trying to mentor and coach others on our team. So stage 1 is unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. An example of a guitar, I'm gonna start the guitar. I'm gonna be a rock star. It's gonna be amazing. I have all this optimism because this is what I want to do. Stage 2, conscious incompetence. You know what you don't know. So this is where you're like, oh, it takes this amount of work, it's this amount of effort, and you realize there's all these things that you have to do to get to that goal, and you don't know how to do any of them yet. Stage 3, conscious competence. You know how to do it, but you have to think your way through it. So now you more or less know what you have to do. It just takes a lot of work and effort to do it. And stage 4, unconscious competence. You can do it without thinking. You just know what to do. Things are now automatic. So here's how the emotions play into this. So when you start out at unconscious incompetence, again, this is the enthusiastic phase because you really don't know what you don't know. So you're full of optimism. Ignorance is bliss. And so there's not much resistance until you start hitting the conscious incompetence and you get that overwhelmed feeling, and your resistance or willingness to do what you need to do starts to rise. Then you move over into competence. At the very beginning, it's still very hard. And as you get more and more competent, as time goes on, your resistance starts to become low until you're in the unconscious competence phase with little resistance. And this shows how your stress is. So unconscious incompetence, no stress, I can conquer the world. You then realize how much you don't know and how much it's going to take in conscious incompetence, and your stress level is at an all-time high. Then as you increase in your competence and you come into conscious competence, your stress level starts to drop down until it's almost nothing when you're operating in unconscious competence. So this is how we should flow through the model. We should set a goal. We start in unconscious incompetence with all that enthusiasm. We increase the consciousness to the point that we know the basic steps of what we need to do, and we're now in conscious incompetence. We start to increase our competence so that we're into conscious competence, and we know what we need to do, we're doing it, and then we get so competent that it now becomes unconscious, and we reach unconscious competence. We do it automatically, we hit our goal. And then we really should start another goal. So where we get stuck, unconscious incompetence. So we can get stuck in this phase because of a denial of usefulness of skills. We need to be aware of the stress and the mental resistance that will be forthcoming on the horizon. Conscious incompetence. Stress level is high and resistance starts increasing. Analysis paralysis can set in very easily. Conscious competence. Resistance can still be high and need to balance the amount of effort and hard work needed without burning out. Unconscious competence. The key here is that there can be difficulty in explaining to others because we now perform without thinking, staying here and not making a new goal. Unconscious competence feels good. It's automatic. It equals the comfort zone. Hypothesis. So again, this is something that as I was sitting and learning about it, I was thinking in my head, this truly applies to the business, and this is what I've hypothesized about that. How to help move through the stages. Unconscious incompetence. We need encouragement on all the things being done right, tactful guidance towards areas of growth. Conscious incompetence. We need consistent affirmation that this is a normal part of the process. Consistent confirmation that practice will increase knowledge and skill. Conscious competence. Providing as much support and leverage as possible. Additional affirmation. And unconscious competence, where we're now doing it automatically and most likely trying to help others move through these stages. Use of tools, simple systems, one-on-one coaching, and regular education. So why the simple system is so important? Because again, once we are at unconscious competence and we're talking about the setting that we want to help others move through that stage. My resistance is now low, but I'm trying to coach those whose resistance is high. My stress is lower, but I'm trying to coach those whose stress is high. I've internalized some skills, many of which were prior to this learning process, and I don't know how to articulate them clearly at times. It is now easy for me, and many times I keep saying that it is easy, but it isn't easy for the person that's asking. If it was easy for them, they wouldn't be asking for help. So I also, as I was ruminating over this information, thought about examples of network marketing skills that I possess and therefore have probably internalized a lot of it, some of which came even prior to being in Young Living. So I pulled some of these just as a list of, skills for successful network marketing. Most of them correlate to Eric Worre's GoPro, but there's not all of them on here because I didn't want to go too in depth, but connecting. So I am a social gregarious person, have networking skills. I use them in other avenues and have in the past. I also have soft skills in relationship building. I have a degree in business administration marketing with concentration in international marketing. So I have training on cultural differences and whether a person thinks collectively or individually, and body language, and just all types of soft skills that help me build rapport probably faster than the average person with other people. Booking and promoting meetings. So as an automotive professional, I have to do automotive industry meetings, whether in conference call form or in-person meeting, actually. And I've done that throughout my 15-year career in the automotive industry. Weddings, showers, social events. I have actually thought about getting certified in the past as an event coordinator. I love doing it. It does not usually stress me out. I go with the flow. When things start going one way, I'm good at improvising and just making sure the outline and the basics get done and not worrying about when details fall off. Presenting the opportunity. So I have 20 plus years of presentation skills in my place of worship and probably 15 plus years of presentation skills in a work setting. I've had previous minor success in network marketing. So this is my third network marketing company, the first one I was with, I was no longer with because they went under. I actually had minor success slinging products with them. I was in college and I was able to sell an $800 water system to someone. So I've had previous minor success. I get network marketing. I've read a lot of books on it, know how it's supposed to work coming in. 25 plus years door-to-door Bible preaching. So again, going to someone, sometimes talking to strangers and presenting something to them is something that I've done for years. Following up, so I have 15 years of materials and supply chain management in the automotive industry, meaning that I've had to follow up with suppliers and try to convince them and motivate them and build a relationship with them to do certain things for our company, or following up with actual material parts to make sure it gets to the place that I need it to do. At one point in time, I was part of an emergency response system team that if I didn't follow up, a plant could possibly shut down. I have 25 plus years of revisiting individuals in door-to-door preaching and training and coaching. Training coordinator in every automotive position that I've had, and one-on-one coaching, such as even just helping individuals learn to read in English and Spanish in door-to-door Bible preaching. Goal setting, I set goals every September and always have for as long as I can remember. I've usually worked at least 2 jobs in my adult career, which requires lots of planning and time management. And I have 20 plus years of personal development. So at the age of 19, I actually had a very abusive childhood, meaning abusive in every way, usually leads to a person being an addict, going to prostitution or suicide. And I was in a class at 19, a psychology class. And in that class, as I was going through things emotionally in my life, got it in my head very clearly that the behavior, the things I was experiencing, was actually normal behavior as a result of the abnormal things I had experienced in my life. And from that point forward, how I dealt with things was personal development. If an individual came to me and said, "Hey, I think you're kind of really negative." Of course, being human, our first reaction is always, "No, I'm not." But then as you think about it and think of examples, I personally would go to Borders or Barnes & Noble and I would pick up a book on how to be positive. And I've done that my whole entire life since age 19. So I'm going to use this example of explaining how this can affect when we're coaching someone. So just for a visual, this right here is my library. So as you can see on the top shelf, it's like stacked twice. The bottom shelf, some of those are stacked twice. And this is my library prior to Young Living. So there are some duplicates of books up here. There's probably some that I haven't read. Most of them are spiritual books or self-development books. There are very few fiction books, but a couple probably in there and a couple dictionaries. This again is my library prior to Young Living. Everything that I've listened to in Young Living has been audiobook form. So I have them in a CD somewhere or they're on Audible. But this is what I did. This is my self-development here graphically. So how this actually plays out and how things like this can lead to miscommunication. So I say, read this book, which is easy for me, operating in unconscious competence. Whether or not I was in Young Living, I'm going to read a book once a month or even more often. It's something normal. It's something easy. It's something I do without thinking. My teammate doesn't read the book because the average person gets out of college, they're excited, and they say, "I'm never going to pick up a book again." I say, why do they never listen to me? So because I'm operating in unconscious competence and they're possibly operating in conscious incompetence and they're feeling overwhelmed or stressed by the idea of reading a whole entire book, then it's my job to actually repeatedly explain to them, walk them through, and help them understand because we're operating on different levels. Another example, I say, you should try building online, which is easy for me operating in unconscious competence because I've been in Young Living for 4 years. I've heard Lindsay T. Moreno speak 3 times. I've read a couple books on building on social media. My teammate, who's been in 2 years or less, posts 1 graphic from YL website on Instagram about oils. And I say, are you serious right now? What don't they get? That is not how you do it. But they haven't gotten all the input. For me, it's easy to know what building online means. For them, operating in conscious incompetence, they don't know all the steps that are needed. So again, I have to help coach them. I have to walk them through. I have to spend time with them because we're operating on different levels. So summary of why you may be stuck. You're stuck in analysis paralysis and are thinking about the business rather than doing the business. And this was me personally when it came to starting to share in Spanish. I sat for 2 years not actively sharing in Spanish because I would think, we don't have the tools, we don't have the system, I don't know some of the words in Spanish, I'm not even Hispanic, why should it be me? And I sat there. I would not actively, if someone asked me a question because they were bilingual and they saw some of the posts that I did, then I would answer their questions, but I wouldn't actively pursue it. I wouldn't, when they signed up, I didn't do the proper follow through that I would do with other individuals, and there they sat. Another reason, because of the effort and hard work involved in and what got me through that is that I got into a mastermind. I built relationships with other cross-line and corporate people, and they gave me the confirmation, keep doing what you're doing. I see what you're doing the right things. I associated in the masterminds with other people in the same situation, and we worked through it together. Another reason, because of the effort and hard work involved in the conscious competence phase, you stop doing some of the tasks that got you where you are. So for me, I went 3 months without sending postcards. I stopped doing monthly meetings. We stopped doing Zoom calls. And those were things that it took a while to see the effect that it had on the team. But looking back, it's obvious that was part of the reason of getting us stuck. And so in this phase, again, what we need to do is we need to reach out to other individuals, reach out to the leaders and try to divvy up the work, reach out to Crossline to see how we can leverage and do more together. And then we can manage through some of the resistance and the stress that still has to taper off when we're in the conscious competence phase. You're operating at unconscious competence and are not taking the time to walk people step by step through a system so that they can reach the level that you are at. So for me, an evidence of this was that last year I reached Help 5. I was in the Help 5 lounge, yet I didn't have any individuals on my team that were there with me. So that means the skills that I were doing on a regular basis were not being translated down as they needed to be. So again, this is where it's critical that we're walking someone through a system and not just telling them what to do, and help making sure that we are giving them the support they need at the levels that they're at to work through the resistance or the stress they may be feeling. So as a final note, people follow your lead if you show them. We know that. And it's always said up to about 50%. So we want to make sure we're doing as much as we can. But if it looks easy for you, or like it is something you are naturally good at, they may think that they cannot do it and not try. So here are some references. The best reference is this website here to get a little bit more on the 4 stages of competence. And then these 2 books to me are very good: Coactive Coaching and Coactive Leadership, on helping understand how to communicate with others and draw them out and see what level that they are at. And then lastly, here's how you can connect with me. You can connect with me, just my name, on YouTube. Have tons of references in English and Spanish on there. Instagram and Snapchat, Sweet Canela 5. Facebook is vivactiva.life. And then Twitter @Sweet Canela. Thank you, everyone. Hope this information was helpful.